Hi there! Let's continue reading this book with me, Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. There are 12 chapters, and so far we have reached chapter 10. But before I show you and read you this book, I will actually show you other books that I will continue reading after finishing this book. The first one I got is one of my favorite novels, The Little Prince. Remember, all the books I'm going to show you is bilingual books, are bilingual books. So yeah, bilingual books. The next book is The Old Man and the Sea. Very nice picture. The third book is Pinocchio, my favorite story about the little boy and his dad, Pinocchio. Third book is this, Peter Pan. I love a little bit of magic, Peter Pan. Alright, so let's continue chapter 10, which is The Lobster Quadrille. The Mock Turtle sighed deeply and drew the back of one flapper across his eyes. He looked at Alice and tried to speak, but for a minute or two sobs choked his voice, same as if he had done a bone in his throat, said the Griffin, and it set to work shaking him and punching him in the back. At last, the Mock Turtle recovered his voice, and with tears running down his cheeks, he went on again. You may not have lived much under the sea. I haven't, said Alice, and perhaps you were never even introduced to a lobster. Alice began to say, I once tasted, but checked herself hastily and said, No, never. So you have no idea what a delightful thing a lobster quadrille is. No, indeed. What sort of dance is it? Said Alice. Why, said the Griffin, you first form into a line along the seashore. Two lines, cried the Mock Turtle. Seals, turtles, salmon, and so on. Then, when you have cleared all the jellyfish out of the way, that generally takes some time, interrupted the Griffin. You advance twice, each with a lobster as a partner. Of course, the Mock Turtle said. Advance twice. Set to partners. Change lobsters and retire in the same order, continued the Griffin. Then the Mock Turtle went on. You throw the lobsters as far out to sea as you can. Swim after them, shouted the Griffin, with a bound into the air. Turn a somersault in the sea, cried the Mock Turtle, capering widely about. Change lobsters again, yelled the Griffin at the top of its voice. Back to land again, and that's all the first figure, said the Mock Turtle, suddenly dropping his voice, and the two creatures, who had been jumping about like mad things all this time, sat down again very sadly and quietly, and looked at Alice. It must be a very pretty dance, said Alice timidly. Would you like to see a little of it? Said the Mock Turtle. Very much indeed, said Alice. Come, let's try the first figure, said the Mock Turtle to the Griffin. We can do it without lobsters, which shall sing. Oi, you sing, said the Griffin. I've forgotten the words. So they began solemnly dancing round and round Alice, every now and then treading on her toes when they passed too close, and waving their forepaws to mark the time, while the Mock Turtle sang this very slowly and sadly. Thank you. It's a very interesting dance to watch, said Alice, feeling very glad that it was over at last. I do so like that curious song about the whiting. The whiting. Oh, as to the whiting, said the Mock Turtle. You've seen them, of course. Yes, said Alice. I've often seen them at din. She checked herself hastily. I don't know where din may be, said the Mock Turtle, but if you've seen them so often, of course, you know what they're like. I believe so, Alice replied thoughtfully. They have their tails in their mouths, and they're all over crumbs. You're wrong, said the Mock Turtle. Crumbs would all wash off in the sea, but they have their tails in their mouths. And the reason is, here the Mock Turtle yawned and shut his eyes. Tell her about the reason and all that, he said to the Griffin. The reason is, said the Griffin, that they would go with the lobsters to the dance, so they got thrown out to the sea. So they had to fall a long way. So they got their tails fast in their mouths, so they couldn't get them out again. That's all. Thank you, said Alice. It's very interesting. I never knew so much about a whiting before. I can tell you more than that if you like, said the Griffin. Do you know why it's called a whiting? I never thought about it, said Alice. Why? It does the boots and shoes, the Griffin replied very solemnly. Alice was thoroughly puzzled. Does the boots and shoes? She repeated in a wondering tone. Why? What are your shoes done with? Said the Griffin. I mean, what makes them so shiny? Alice looked down at them and considered a little before she gave her answer. They're done with blacking, I believe. Boots and shoes under the sea, the Griffin went on in a deep voice, are done with whiting. Now you know. And what are they made of? Alice asked in a tone of great curiosity. Soles and eels, of course, the Griffin replied rather impatiently. Any shrimp could have told you that. Then the Griffin added, Come, let's hear some of your adventures. I could tell you my adventures, beginning from this morning, said Alice a little timidly, because I was a different person then. Explain all that, said the Mock Turtle. No, the adventure first, said the Griffin in an impatient tone. Explanations take such a dreadful time. So Alice began telling them her adventures from the time she first saw the white rabbit. She was a little nervous about it just at first. The two creatures got so close to her, once one on each side, and opened their eyes and mouth so very wide, but she gained courage as she went on. Her listeners were perfectly quiet till she got to the part about her repeating a poem to the caterpillar, and the worlds all coming different. And then the Mock Turtle drew a long breath and said, That's very curious. Suddenly, a cry of the trial's beginning was heard in the distance. Come on, cried the Griffin, and taking Alice by the hand, it hurried off. What trial is it? Alice panted as she ran, but the Griffin only answered, Come on, and ran the faster. That was interesting. I wonder what the trial is, but yep, that's the end of chapter 10. And next time you will read chapter 9, which is Who Stole the Tarts? I wonder who that could be. But alright, I'll see you next video. Yeah.